Hi, everybody. Welcome to the BaT podcast. This is Randy Nonnenberg.
And Howard Swig.
We're excited to be back. A lot of interesting things going on this week. After our first podcast last week, we hope you checked that one out. And we're excited to be with you again. This week we have a special guest from the BaT community that Howard is going to have a little chat with. We're going to talk through a couple of new features coming on to BaT, which is really exciting. And we're going to talk about, some events, some bucket list stuff going on, and general news from the BaT community. So with that, let's kick it off.
No, we got a good agenda today. I'm super stoked to be back. Podcast number 2. We got through number 1. I think it's pretty good. You know, it's kind of like your first couple laps out of the pits. You're making your way up to speed and getting more comfortable.
The tires are warm. I think the tires are warmed up.
Getting more comfortable behind the wheel. Carrying a little more speed into the corners. So we're feeling good for round 2 today.
Okay, fantastic. That's an apropos for Howard to talk like that. He has plenty of track laps under his belt. So we can also quiz him on that. But one thing I wanted to emphasize for everybody is that, reach out to us. Tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what kind of guests you want us to have. These podcasts you can now find on the bringatrailer.com/podcast page. You can find it in the upper menu on the site. And you can very easily reach out to us with questions that we can answer on air or, just any suggestions that you have. What would be cool to hear? So get involved. We'd love to hear from you. So with that, let's talk about new stuff. We've got a really amazing new feature coming this week, which is something that has been in the works for so long, and that is BaT shipping. Bring a trailer shipping. So we've wanted that to be integrated and not as much of a pain point as it is for so many people. With 300 cars plus, I think 350 this week on the website. There's about 250 or more that are selling every week, and a bunch of them get shipped all over the country. And people are doing that by who knows what means. They're calling, they're looking online, and it's just a really messy world to try to ship your car. So we have built, and you can navigate over to see that we have integrated shipping and map tracking and all this sort of stuff right onto BaT and integrated it into your checkout. If you win a car on BaT, you check a couple boxes, you get an instant quote, you agree to it, and boom, boom, you can have the car delivered to you.
Frankly, it's pretty remarkable. We've done now over 43,000 auctions, and we haven't done a whole lot by way of directly helping all of our users and customers ship their car. We have provided suggestions and recommendations of the sort, but this is a game changer for us. As Randy mentioned, this has been in the works for seemingly years and years.
Yes.
But to roll it out in the right way takes a lot of thought, and we wanted to do it right. So, shipping, man. I mean, 43,000 cars. All of them had to be shipped. Well, not all of them. Some people fly in and drive them home. But shipping, like so many things, I mean, there's a whole underworld behind it, right? My first job out of college was at a company as a new car buying and leasing broker, and we'd get cars in the Bay Area. We'd get cars up from LA, and we would use a shipping broker dispatcher. He's hiring these shipping cowboys, and the price was bargain basement, but the cars got there undamaged. I won't mention the name of the company, but talking about the spectrum of the shipping underworld, I mean, that guy, you never know where the car is. Maybe the trucker stopped over in Fresno to see his girlfriend for the weekend. So, I guess the point is, shipping is a separate chore that you have to do if you buy a car. The buying is easy and fun, and then you got to do your, do a couple of tasks to get the car into your garage. And what we have built with BaT shipping is, first and foremost, super convenient and delightful and easy to use. We've partnered with someone who has really neat technology that makes it really awesome as a customer once you buy your car to not really have to think about it again. It's not navigate away from BaT and get on the phone and try to work out your quote and all of that stuff that can be kind of a headache. this is really a one-stop model, and you do it all right there on your BaT auction listing.
Yeah. One thing that I've always been envious of is like people who have a guy, right? Like they know somebody, and I've never been one of those people to know who to call to ship a car. So I go on Google, or I, bought a car on eBay, and I click through their links to whatever firm, which is outside, and it just all feels heavy and kind of scary in some ways. And so what I always wanted, what I think all of us here at BaT have always wanted, is like an Amazon experience, right? Like you buy the thing, you put it in your cart, you say purchase, and the thing, is triggered, and things are put in motion, and it comes to your house. And I think that's how so much online is done. And so we've been thinking over it's been a year, 18 months of putting this thing together, of how do we do it? How do we make it work? How do we make it easy? How do we make it work for a Chevy pickup truck, but also a non-running Volkswagen, right? Like how do we make this something that is just really easy from end to end? And something that was a just mandatory feature for me is like a map on BaT where beginning to end, you're kind of seeing the progress, right? That's something I do on every package coming to my door, and I wish I could do that on every car. And a couple trucking companies out there have it, but it's certainly not the norm, and it's something that is necessary. So for this, you'll go to your BaT sort of user page and on the auction page after it's closed, if you're the winner, and there'll be a clickable link right there with an embedded map that shows this 240Z that you just bought, whether it's 200 miles away or 2,500 miles away, it's on its way to you, and all you had to do was a couple clicks, and it's trustworthy and a known quantity and done through BaT, and we stand behind it, and we're excited to offer that to everybody. So yeah, this is just sort of a major step forward. I know there's a couple other sites where you can kind of click off to a partner they have or something, but having it from auction bid to quoting to shipping to you in a couple of clicks, we just think really isn't offered out there, and we think that's something that we're really psyched to be able to offer ourselves.
Yes, I think certainly number one is super convenient and really neat technology that's nicely integrated into the BaT platform. Number two is being able to offer this service at a very competitive price. How that works, and Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a really neat kind of automated quoting tool that takes the zip code where the seller and car are located and the zip code of your registered BaT account, and it spits out for you a quote. I think we're going to offer open and enclosed.
Correct.
Some folks may wish to use one or both of those. Obviously, open would be a little bit cheaper, depending on the car and the weather and the where the car is going. You and I have shipped a few cars over the years. It's a mix of mild to wild in terms of ease and administrative headache. But we think BaT shipping can avoid a lot of the bad parts. When shipping goes great, the whole experience from start to finish is wonderful. But if it goes wrong, it can be a huge pain point and maybe sour the last mile, so to speak, of what is otherwise a really awesome purchase. So we're pretty excited.
Yeah, this is going to be great. So anyway, we're psyched on BaT buyers who do these Hail Mary stories where they fly and drive and drive their brand new purchase that they've never seen 1,500 miles home and send us the stories and that sort of stuff. We will always encourage that. But we just know that there's, frankly, the majority of people that are buying on BaT that somehow need to get that vehicle to them. And developing this sort of set of tools and really easy process is something that we think is yet another reason to buy and sell on BaT, just because we're simplifying it. So we'd love to hear your feedback. Go to the website, go check it out. You can get quotes on any car, how much it'll cost to ship to you, even if you're not the winner yet. So that is in every single listing right above the bid box, sort of. You can go there. And as Howard said, one of the coolest things is you can get both an enclosed quote and an open quote at the same time. If you're sending a $4,500 car, you're probably not going to pay $3,000 in shipping. You're probably going to look for an economical route. But if you're buying a Ferrari Daytona on BaT, you're probably looking for the highest, most secure enclosed shipping you can do. And both of those are offered, which was another part that we thought was really important. So go check it out. That's a major leap forward for us, and we'll obviously continue to check in with updates about how that product is developing. But it's on the site right now. Moving on from there, we've got a couple other cool things we can talk about. First off, there's just some interesting cars moving across BaT. There's been some interesting cars just in the broader marketplace. We're always watching stuff for whatever reason. Howard and I are always watching weird car auctions in Europe and stuff selling, and I'm just as much as day one on BaT, I'm just as addicted to like watching cars transact that I'm never going to buy before I go to sleep at night all over the internet. So I know so many of you are doing that too. But Howard, any interesting stuff on BaT jumping out the last week or even live now?
Oh man, yeah, a lot of stuff. One thing I would kick off with is what is probably the most significant American car we've ever listed, which was a 1969 Corvette L88 Coupe. That closed last week, sold for $610,000.
That's a C3.
Correct.
That sold for $600,000. Like, I was a little freaked out by that. I was like, okay, this has got the special big block. What is this? What is this? 250, 300? But you're telling me that this is like market's a high market for one of these big block cars.
Yeah, like so many of the great limited production American muscle cars, the best one to the casual observer looks very similar to the showroom stock lowest spec option. Right, a Plymouth Satellite,
totally.
Looks similar to
the Hemi's 10 times the money, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So yeah, the L88, pretty awesome history. They only made, I think, 216 of them between 67 and 69. This was an effort that GM and Chevy did. They wanted to gear it towards racers. It famously was not publicized very intentionally. They actually discouraged people from buying the car. They famously underreported the horsepower figure. I think they said it was 435 or 440 when in reality it was quite a bit more than that, mid 550 to 580. I think period tests clocked a stock L88 doing a quarter mile in like 11 odd seconds.
Wow.
So that's pretty good today. And in 1968, that was pretty remarkable. So, it's a car with a really cool history. Obviously, most of them, as a result, went to privateer racers that took them anywhere from local SCCA regional races all the way up to I think one American drove one at Le Mans in 68 or 69.
Crazy. And what's the deal? That guy listed that thing no reserve, and it had a great video attached. A lot of people were talking about the video. It was kind of an interview with the owner. Is that what was going on?
Yeah, the seller, who has listed a ton of cars with a lot of success, did a wonderful job with his presentation, a number of videos with owners and restorers who are familiar with the car.
We got to get him on. 1600 Veloce, is that who sold that one?
He's in, yeah. If you're listening, we're
coming after you. Yeah, we're coming.
But yeah, and like so many of those muscle cars, you really need to be bulletproof and demonstrating the authenticity of the car, and he did a wonderful job doing that. And one of those cars, it's tough to say what's the market for it. They only made 216 of them. Who knows how many are still around? They made coupes and convertibles, so definitely a strong result, but deservedly so for a really exceptional car.
Yeah, and you say most significant American car that we've sold. I'm trying to think what else would be in that realm, right? We've sold some Shelbys. We've sold, Ford GTs, right, are bringing big money. The new and the old, both of those have seen quite a bit of traction on BaT. But to get into American cars that start eclipsing an L88, you start getting into maybe, historic racing cars that actually won stuff, or you get into, cars with Le Mans history, or stuff out of special collections, or I don't know, Duesenberg type crazy stuff that we've dabbled in a little bit here and there. But top five, if this one is the peak, the top five fills out with some interesting American stuff. And I love that. I love that we have that sort of variety, and that the American category has this thing like way out in front, pulling 3x what some Ferraris from the same era pulls. Having that car parked next to a similar era, early 70s Ferrari is it's awesome to see that people are still super psyched about Corvettes. And the C3 sometimes, maybe the C4 is even another rung down, but the C3 is sometimes a little unloved by some folks, right? A lot of people are like C2 obsessed. I'm a little guilty of that, but seeing one of these show up and just really knock everyone's socks off was super cool.
Yeah, certainly. And, significant is subjective. This car is actually virtually parked next to, on the results page that I'm looking at now, a 1980 Ford F-250 truck with 76 miles that sold for $97,000. I actually know the guy that bought it. He's a
Do you really?
super awesome collector who,
wow.
From what I know, he has isn't collector grade 80s trucks, if that's even a thing now. But
sometimes it's dealers. They want them like for a showpiece on the try to sell new Raptors by tugging at the heartstrings with a bullnose pickup. But this one, the dude, and he's not in the business. He's looking to do it just to have fun, huh?
Totally, yeah. No, the trend for trucks has been pretty remarkable to watch play out on BaT over the last few years, and like all collector cars, the really in the wrapper jewelry. I don't know if you'd use the word jewelry to describe a AD F-250, but the really exceptional stuff will always soar above the rest price wise, and this was a really good example of that.
Cool, super cool. Well, those are a couple wild results that we've had. We've also had just some cool stuff coming across in much mellower price points. We've also had a category sometimes people don't think about is parts and engines and documents. I know we've had some Hoyer clocks recently that people are fired up about with vintage rally type stuff. Any weirdo sort of parts or components that
my
you
two
remember?
Favorite things that were super out there, and part of my job is looking at all the submissions with my team that comes in every day, and most of it is cars and trucks, but occasionally we will get some oddball parts and automobilia and miscellaneous stuff. So I think my two favorite things recently, we had a really well done slot car set that was effectively like a whole diorama that was probably like 10 by 20 feet done.
Wasn't it in Michigan or something? Where was that thing?
Something
Midwest,
like that.
I think, yeah.
So you got the awesome, slot car set with the topography in the mountains and the little people in the cars, and then all the cool slot cars that went with it. So that was a big hit. And then we had a guy who actually previously sold a really awesome 65 GT350, a guy out in Hawaii. Shout out to G Blue if you're tuning in from the Big Island. But he sold a racing simulator, and this is a cool guy, and he's got some cool cars. And he submitted this. He's actually sent me an email saying, "Hey, I know there's a little, out there for you guys, but I've got this racing simulator. This is like a full motorized moving seat with triple screens, and if you can't afford to hop in a F1 car, this is about the closest you're going to get for 100th of the price." And I said, "Greg, that sounds cool." And we listed it, and people loved it, and it sold very well. I said, I don't know how you're going to ship your seat and 3 television screens from Oahu to presumably, the mainland U.S. He said, "No, don't worry about that. I can handle it." But I think we love and all you guys listening love when we sprinkle in stuff like that.
So next thing that'd be kind of fun to talk about, Howard and I in the office, and when we're chatting back and forth, are often talking about cars that are for sale or have transacted all over the place, all sorts of weird sites and hidden places that we see interesting results happening. And one of those is seeing stuff from overseas. One reason is, a lot of people don't know those websites, or they could be in other languages. But I tend to hunt around on classified sites and have featured cars like that on BaT since the beginning, really, of cars that are in, France or Belgium or who knows where. And that sort of spawned a project that I did on the site when we were just exploring different types of editorial. We did what I called a purchase adventure, decided to go to Europe, find a car over there, buy it, drive it there, and ship it home. We have some international sellers that like ship stuff across oceans, so I wanted to see what that experience was actually like. So one of the first cars that sold on BaT auctions was a 1964 Alfa Romeo Giulia Sprint GT step-nose car, a blue one that has kind of become famous within BaT just because it was there on the first day for some of the first auctions. And that whole story kind of stemmed from this process of like nobody knew that car, right? There's a lot of cars in the U.S. that people know when you show up at Cars and Coffee with it, but this car was a total curveball that came out of nowhere, and it was fun to drive it for that reason. But that leads me to Howard. What kind of stuff are you seeing out there, or maybe some stuff that's hidden that people may not have known was on the market or transacted recently?
Yeah, totally. We love looking at the weirdo stuff coming across auction blocks across the pond. As Randy mentioned, I mean, Europe has such a great history and legacy with motorsports and specifically models of cars that never made it to the U.S. And so we're always keeping our eye out for cool stuff being sold. I really like a regional auction house called Art Curial, which is located in France. They host just a handful of auctions every year, but I've always found that they select really, really cool stuff. So they had an auction that just ended last week. What caught my eye was they had a group of really special competition cars that were for sale. The headliner was the car that won the 1972 24 Hours of Le Mans, a Matra, which I'm sure was as terrifying to drive now as it was then. I think that was
blue race car, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that was Graham Hill and Henry Pescarolo that
Whoa.
did that. I think Matra actually swept. I don't know if the podium, but anyways, 1-2. So that was neat. That brought almost $7 million. I don't know what you do with it, but it's not too often that a Le Mans 24 winner comes across the block. So that's a special one. And my favorite was they had a grouping of X-Works Group B rally cars, all the stuff that people love. Delta S4 Lancia, Sport Quattro, RS 200, 205 Turbo 16 Peugeot, which is probably one that speaks to Randy, along with...
Love that. Except for the price, man. That thing was crazy. Can't believe what it went for.
And an R5 Maxi Turbo.
There we go. Now we're talking.
They did for, what is this? Almost 800,000 US.
Wow.
Carlos Sainz's R5 Maxi.
That's amazing. They get that stuff. That's the crazy part of some of those auction houses, like... who knows where that stuff is coming from? And obviously those guys are super well connected within France and within the sort of adjoining countries over there. But like, who knows what collection or museum or whatever those cars were hiding in. And it's stuff that us all the way over here on the West Coast or anywhere in the U.S. may not have those sort of ties into there. So it's one thing to browse cool auction catalogs and online sites and classified sites and all that sort of stuff, but to see some of this stuff spring up, obviously those are crazy special cars, and to read the way they do descriptions is always a little weird because it's translated and you're kind of trying to get to the root of what's the story with these cars. And anyway, so underground or not necessarily underground, but maybe lesser known auction houses. You have to be pretty in the know to be able to know Art Curial or how to pronounce it or where they are. And obviously you and I are always interested in those sorts of sort of unusual venues. Any others other than that one that you're sometimes watching or thinking of, even if there's not specific car examples? But where else do you find this kind of stuff?
I think one reason why a lot of this stuff does well in Europe is the whole event scene in Europe is frankly at a whole another level than here in the U.S. And we have great events here, but specifically the rally and race and tour scene in Western Europe and the UK attracts incredible cars, and whereas all the cars we just talked about are pretty useless in the U.S., you can actually take those to a handful of events in Europe and go buck wild in them and actually drive them in the way that they were designed. And that is, frankly, really unique to kind of the European motoring culture, that they are able to do that. And Goodwood is the obvious example. Those guys are driving the best of the period and, crashing into each other and they're driving to win, and the custodianship of the car often seems secondhand to
or
show
third, second or third, or way down the list. Really different from here. No, you're exactly right. Those are some cool ones. Yeah, there's actually events, Rally Day and some of the sort of rally festivals they have. Like if you buy a Colin McRae Subaru and have it over here, you park it in your garage and show it to a couple people, I guess, right? I don't know where you're actually going to use that thing, but over there they're like, oh yeah, there's like a dirt stage 4 times a year where you actually go run that against cars that it would have competed against in period. So a lot of them get put in museums and stuff and collections, but I think over there they love to use them. So yeah, a quick segue there. I mean, you talked about it. Any events that you have that, I mean, independent of COVID, say even a year or so ago, like it would have been on your list, like that's something I would dream of doing, or that's something I really want to do?
Totally. Well, I know you might get to this. I know for a long time you have had a dream of doing the Monte Carlo Rally. I don't want to steal your thunder if that's what you were saying.
That's like just the top, right? I mean, that's like living in the car magazines that I grew up in, like all of those, whether it's 80s era or 50s era, all those guys driving past those signs in the snow and like, oh man, all that stuff is really, yeah, you hit on it. I can't stop talking about that stuff. But yeah, what were you going to say with it?
I would say one feature of the European events is they tend to be pretty competitive. And so that appeals to some and not others. I'm still somewhat of a young buck, so that does appeal to me to some degree. So yeah, I would love to do, for example, like the Modena Centrodoro. Another cool thing about a lot of those events is there are very cool road sections, but most of them incorporate full-on drop the green flag races at all the great tracks around Western Europe. So when you enter in Torado or Modena Centrodoro, none of which I've done, but I'd happily take a pre-tax salary deduction or apply it towards that if we can arrange that somehow.
I mean, there's guys in the BaT community that are going over there, Americans that are going over there to run that, and they run it in a your type of Giulietta Veloce, right? I mean, it's not necessarily you have to have $1 million rally car to go run those sorts of things, right? There's a 68 Mustang, sort of Trans Am spec almost Mustang that's over there in Europe that has Tour Auto history, right? So that signals that it's not even a Shelby, right? You can get in there potentially with some under the radar type models and go do those sorts of events. And yeah, I was always just thoughtful about, the price of a round trip ticket and some sort of car to drive over there, whether you're buying it or renting it. There are some really expensive events that you can run, or you can buy a round trip ticket to Europe and go try to do something else. I always try to put a pencil to that, and that's what resulted in my Alpha trip and those sort of events. I think you ought to do them, man. I think you got to get over there and get some time behind the wheel in those sorts of events. I'd love to see you do that. I'd love to cheer you on to do that. I don't have the driving chops that you do, but maybe I could sneak into some mellower road tours over there. I don't think Monte Carlo is exactly knocking on my door asking me to come participate, but I think you got to have FIA licenses and all sorts of stuff over there that I would have to grow into, but you may be ready for.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for everyone. I mean, not everyone wants to drive 300 miles and then do a 2 lap races at Monza and then drive another 200 miles back to the hotel. So it's
that's not normal. I think that's totally normal, man. I want to do that.
Other event would be Le Jog.
You're into that,
which is what
tell people what that is.
Grote.
Totally. Now we're getting deep into the weirdo car event space, but would love to hear. Yeah, tell people about that one.
Oh man, I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know it's awesome and has been around for a long time. And it's basically you drive all around the island of Great Britain, and I think it's 10, 11, 12 days. And it's.
I think it's not for sissies though, right? It's like nasty weather and long distance, and there's a night stage, and I think they have like an expert category where like it's pretty cutthroat. Like, and this isn't like high speed cutthroat. This is like navigational and time and finesse sort of cutthroat, and I think there's a lot of like definitely competitiveness, but there's people that have been like, oh yeah, I've done the llast 25 of these, right?
Totally.
Like, just waltz in and take the cup, right? I think there's nationalism going on, and I think there's cool territory. The name comes from 2 points in the UK. It's like traversing the region. like if you were trying to run something from Miami to Seattle, sort of distance and a well-known sort of milestone locations, and they abbreviate the weird names of those into this LeJog name, and it's always just been kind of romantic and interesting and crazy, and I've always wanted to go over there. We featured a Canadian that bought a Benz off of BaT. He actually bought a 109 sedan Mercedes, and he took it over there and ran it in LeJog, and I was like, sweet.
Wow.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, no, I guess we could sum it up that LeJog is kind of like the British version of the Cannonball Sea to Shining She classic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we like that stuff, but it's a 10-ish day event. Part of me thinks on day 3 I'd be like, okay, this was awesome, but I'm not trying to do this for 7 more days.
Yeah, totally. And I think they're pretty hardcore, right? They're like pretty gristled by the end of that. The people that survive, it's like a survival test. But I love that you bring that up. Yeah, those 3, the one in Italy that I can't even pronounce, but I want to do, the Tour Auto, which is the one in France, and it like finale under the Eiffel Tower with all these race cars and stuff, just super ridiculous. Great videos online of watching that. You guys see guys in GT40s going on, B roads through France. Really unbelievable. And then the LeJog. So, no shortage of cool things to do once we can get on an airplane again and go travel around and burn some gasoline at high prices per liter over in France. So, yeah, those would be certainly on my list. And then, honestly, I'm just, everybody has been sort of locked down, dream events to go do. I want to do some more events around the U.S., right? Like do the Copper State again, going to the Sun Rally in Montana again. I want to do something up in, I think you know this, I've always wanted to drive from California to Alaska, and the Alcan has been a summer, then winter, then summer, then winter, and I at one point had a car that would have made sense for it, and right now I don't have a car that makes a lot of sense for it. The Alpha Giulietta would be kind of a torture machine to go try to drive to Alaska, but I think that's a cool challenge. So anyway, no shortage of awesome events, and again, just a cool reason and a cool lens through which to look at cars on BaT, like, oh wow, there's an interesting Mustang Fastback. Like, I wonder if that would carry me from here to the East Coast or whatever. Those sort of adventures are a big reason why I care about cars and doing stuff with cars. So yeah, anyway, cool. A few cool segments. We're also super excited for kicking off interview series and different people we can engage here. And we're excited to do a little bit of that today.
So now we'd like to kick off our first guest speaker segment of the podcast. I'm always so impressed with just how diverse the BaT community is, with such an interesting mix of people from really every corner of the car world. These are collectors, restorers, marque experts, rally organizers, dealers, shade tree mechanics, casual hobbyists, professional race car drivers, engineers and executives, and on and on and on. They all have wonderful stories to tell, and I'm really excited now that this podcast platform can give us the opportunity to hear from any of these people firsthand, to get a taste of what they're doing and what they're all about. So without further ado, joining us today is a well-known member of the BaT community, a very active participant and knowledgeable contributor on the site. I'd like to welcome user 911R and the man behind the scenes, Matt Crandall, to the podcast. Matt, thanks for being here as our very first guest.
Yeah, thanks, Howard. This is exciting. It's been really cool watching this whole process, and we love being part of Rank Trailer.
No, thank you. You've, I'd like to actually start out by giving you some props. I didn't actually know this, but I checked out your profile before getting on the podcast with you, and you have actually been a registered BaT user since July 2009.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you're such an OG like that, but yeah, 12 odd years ago, that was the early days, long before BaT auctions were even a thought.
Yeah, no, that was we loved watching those daily emails. And what I really, really liked is when one of my cars I was selling got highlighted, because I knew it was going to be a really good day then.
And yeah, fast forward, you have let's see, you have listed over 350 cars on BAT, which is pretty impressive. I believe that gets you to the second highest number of cars sold. So that is a distinction of note. You've definitely built a reputation for some of the best presented cars and vehicles and most thorough auction listings on BAT. So I know that you don't figure that out overnight. Tell us a little bit about how you approach the BAT auction process and kind of how you've developed your formula over the years.
Well, our auction process is, starts at the beginning in the acquiring the car. We buy cars and we also do some consignment cars. But I really look for the best, most unique example. And a lot of times those cars aren't even the best or most unique when they come to me. But I think we've developed a good vision of what makes a car cool, what looks good, the right stance, the right wheels, the right, accessories or attributes. We go through the cars in big detail to make sure that they're functioning in as good as they possibly can, or better. We have a full trained staff here. We have 3 full-time techs and detail department. We do really like to have our hands on the whole process. After the car goes through all of that, then our photography is, and video work is the next most important part. And that's, has been a acquired skill that we've made over the last, 10 years of buying and selling cars on the internet. We find that if we put the best out there, it answers a lot of the questions. You can tell the condition of the car, you can tell the condition of what it's been gone through, and people like that.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think your very first listing was it a late '90s Formula One car roller? Was it
Yes,
that '99 Jordan?
yes, it was a '99 Jordan Formula One car. I bought that car when I had a dealership in here in Oregon, and I had it hanging on the wall. I got it from a Honda dealer up in Canada and brought it down and just sitting on the wall. Then we moved, and now that car is kind of sitting around. So we put it up on BAT as our first car.
And you list all sorts of stuff. Race cars being a good portion of what you do. I mean, you're up there in Portland, great car community and racing community in the Portland area. I know we got a lot of BAT community members in your neck of the woods. Tell us about that. I mean, that's a pretty neat place if you're into neat cars and trucks and race cars.
There's a lot of neat stuff in the Northwest. People think about the climate, being wet and rainy, but you don't have the humidity that causes all the rust. So the cars last here a long time. Guys up here really like to have their cars and they keep them forever and put them away. And they're just, so there's all these little barn finds and garage finds and collectors, and it's very unique. The Portland community, there's several big car clubs and cars and coffee gatherings, and all that is really growing.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. We've some of the BAT staff have made some fun trips up there, and I've actually never been to PIR, the raceway there, but would love to make it up for the. Is it the Rose Cup they have there every July
Yes,
4th?
the
Kind of the
Rose
main event.
Cup. Yes, the Rose Cup is it's the oldest amateur road race west of the Mississippi in the U.S. This year will be its 60th running of the Rose Cup. The Rose Cup event itself is a kind of a rung what you brung, bring the baddest, fastest car you got and racing against others. It's been, Monty Shelton was a big winner of it. Phil Hills ran in it. Lots of famous names. I've won it 3 times though.
And what were you driving?
A Ford Roush Trans Am, full tube frame, 900 horsepower Mustang.
Wow, that's
I think
killer.
I think I still have the GT1 track record at like a minute 11:3 at
Honestly,
PIR.
you've sold a lot of really sweet race cars. I think one of my favorites, you had kind of a I don't think it was a real 26R, but a mid
Yeah,
60s Rosaland S2 race car, maybe 26, in kind of in the style of a 26R racer.
right.
That was 60 odd thousand bucks. And yeah, I can't think of too many cars that deliver that amount of punch and fun in that price level. That's definitely a car I would love to rip around PIR.
That was a great little car. Got that from a local kind of a legend racer guy here in town, and yeah, built from lots of 26R parts, and but it was kind of a recreation, obviously. But there's it's a big racing community, so that's always fun.
And I've noticed, we in the last couple of years have listed more and more vintage motorcycles. I noticed you guys have increased the number of bikes you're listing. Is that because you've bought more, taken more on consignment, found that market more interesting of late, or what?
It's interesting. I got several collectors that have been like, hey, sell this, and we've done it. Um, is it my favorite thing? I'm not sure. But vintage bikes are neat and cool. I have some vintage. I have a vintage Ducati and vintage BMW. They're fun to go out and ride around, and it's kind of like old cars. You don't have to go 10 tenths or be breaking the or doubling the speed limit all the time to be having a good time on a vintage vehicle. So that's probably the draw of them. The lines, the styling, they're quite beautiful. So I think most of these old vintage bikes just go in somebody's living room or man cave, and that's one of their highlights.
And you know
These
what else
bikes
you
are great.
guys have done well with and present beautifully is like Land Rover 90 110s, but oftentimes really tastefully modified versions. Maybe they have like a 200 TDI swap, or
Right.
Arcanic built it in the UK. Is that because Portland just has a higher concentration of guys who like that stuff, or what?
The off-roading in general has just I think skyrocketed in the last few years. The whole overland deal, the Defenders have always been so beautiful and cool looking. They're kind of a Lego-esque build, so you can swip and swap and change things around and make them neat. Arconic, who I think we sold 5 or 6 of them, are really really high quality machines that are taken all apart and redone. So it's the opportunity to buy something that's brand new, basically, that's 25 years old or older. Um, Defenders are just have such a great look and style. Everybody's drawn to them up here. Um, you know, are they the best driving? Are they very exciting? They're more related to John Deere tractor in a lot of ways, but gosh, they get more attention than driving a GT3 911 around. It's kind of crazy.
I actually got the chance. I was out in the east end of Long Island this summer, and a guy let me drive his Defender 90, and I drove it around for 15 minutes. And I personally didn't need to own one after that.
Right.
But I think with a lot of the really like nutso builds, every nut and bolt type thing that has been refurbished, I think maybe some of those people are kind of buying those and using them in kind of a daily driver type capacity. I mean, they're obviously not cars you need to be afraid to put miles on, and
Right.
for some of these that have been really gone through, I don't imagine reliability is a huge concern, is it?
No, no. I mean, they are reliable. They're just not ultra performance oriented. And they're a little bit related to Harley. Is that they like to mark their spot where they were parked. They're
Totally.
very eclectic and fun. The guys, a lot of what we sell them to are they're putting them at their cabin in Aspen or at their beach house or up in the Hamptons or down in down the desert. I mean, they're just something that they can drive to the coffee shop or go out with their buddies and be unique. And the restored ones are definitely what's drawing the money.
Totally. So, I mean, you've obviously been around the Portland car community for some time. But before you were 911R, if I'm not mistaken, you were a very young general manager of the Ferrari store there. Is that right?
Yes, I went to work for Ron Tonk and Gran Turismo as a general manager when I was 27. I was there for nearly 10 years. Also, while I was there, I started Moto Corsa, the Ducati franchise for the Tonkin Group. And so I was running the Ferrari store and the Ducati store. And it was quite a ride. I'm a Portland native. And so being launched into that ultra high end scene was fun, and learned lots. And I was probably one of the last people to work with Ron Tonkin on a day-to-day basis almost. Lots of good stories there.
Tonkin, he was one of the early Ferrari distributors. I mean, going back when to the early 70s or
I think he was. I want to say it was 69 or 68 when you get the Ferrari dealerships, and he was the oldest Ferrari dealership in the U.S. I guess they still are considered that because Brad now owns the franchise for Ferrari. But
right. So was Tonkin like having cocktails with Luigi Chinetti back in the day, or
absolutely.
What? Did he tell you all his old war stories with that?
Oh yeah, there was lots of war stories, and tell him why his cars are the best cars. He got the last 288 GTO off the assembly line with a letter from Enzo with it, thanking him for all of his years of being a Ferrari dealer. So there lots of cool stuff, and Ron's got a great Ferrari collection, and pretty cool stuff.
But so, I mean, usually if I hear general manager of a Ferrari dealership, I associate that with kind of a grizzled, seasoned veteran guy, maybe in his 40s or 50s or 60s. But you were 27 years old.
Yep.
So how did that come to pass?
I actually ran into Brad Tonkin at World Superbike down in Laguna, introduced myself, and I told him he should give me the Ferrari store to run. He goes, "Why would you want to do that? They don't sell any cars." I said, "Well, that's more of the reason why you should have me run that dealership." So we quickly made a deal and took over the store and moved it way up the scale.
Yeah, very good, interesting. And so, as far as your own personal taste in cars, I mean, does that kind of mirror the cars that 911R is selling on the site? What do you drive, and what do you like in your personal life?
Right, I'm definitely an air-cooled old 911 guy. I have a 71 hot rod that I've built. I got an air-cooled 911 race car right now. I'm always building new cars. The problem is I don't keep them very long. They usually end up on Bring a Trailer. Building another safari car right now. I'm sure they'll probably make it that way soon. I have my daily driver is I got a Toyota Land Cruiser with an LS swap and a Volkswagen GTI.
Yeah, very good. And how about some of your favorites that you've sold over the years?
Probably one of my favorite cars that was my personal car that I sold on Bring a Trailer was my 68 911 hot rod.
Was that the orange one?
The orange car.
That was the BaT Photography of the Year winner, whenever that was,
yes,
2 or 3 years ago, huh?
Yes, that car. I owned that car for about 5 years. I built it from the ground up. That was a really fun car. I'm trying to think of all the other stuff. I mean, there's so many cars.
Well, you're like me, Matt. People say, "Oh, Howard, what did you look at this week, or what's cool that sold?" And sometimes it's such a high volume of stuff that my brain kind of goes blank when someone asks me to actually
gloss over. Um, um, I've sold numerous 356 Speedsters lately, and they've really grown on me. I think I'm gonna have my eye on like a pre-8 coupe here pretty soon for myself. That stuff's just really cool and beautiful. Um,
And my buddy here in the office, and I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here,
yeah.
but he said, you ought to ask Matt, is there any car that you have never seen sold on Bring a Trailer that you are either surprised you've never seen one, or you're hoping to be the first guy to list it?
Gosh, I guess, has there been an F40?
There has not. There has been an F40 engine. There has been
Right.
F40 wheels. I think an owner's manual. We've sold almost
Yeah.
enough parts to make an F40. But I've never
F40.
actually sold the entire car.
That's funny. Speaking of parts, I have a Porsche 910 wheel I'm gonna be putting up.
We've sold. We had like a set of like 906 wheels that sold for huge money. I mean, I guess if you really need that stuff and you need the real OEM parts,
Right.
it's not like they're just sitting on eBay every week.
No, it's not. It's not. A couple years ago, I needed a Lamborghini Miura SV manual. Of course, one pops up on Bring a Trailer. I kept bid to like $8,000. I'm like, this is crazy, and I didn't get it. So yeah, some of the really big stuff, I feel like it's going to be moving to Bring a Trailer, just because this online auction platform is just so much better, in my opinion, than a lot of the live auctions. So much more time to invest into seeing what the car is and showing more details and talking about the details with the community.
And I think folks that have watched some of your auctions, they know they can always count on a pretty thorough driving video. I mean,
Yes.
you check the boxes for kind of the beauty shots and all that, but for all your cars, you actually go and mount what's your camera setup? You mount a GoPro inside, and you have kind of a masked Stig figure that
Yeah.
goes on the Portland Loop, or what?
Yes, yeah. We have the Northwest Stig here, and we got the Portland Loop. And we've had to change it up lately. There's been road construction for several months. It's been kind of annoying, but yeah, we have like we microphone the cars. We use really high quality mounts and cameras, and go out and really put the cars through the paces. Show them that they can be driven. Because nobody wants to buy a sports car and watch it, idle down a gravel road. I don't know how many of those videos I've seen. Let's hear it run. Let's see it shift. Let's see it shift up and down. Let's see it match the revs. Let's hear it run right. It's quite amazing. And, usually, I get all the contacts to me directly. Hey, so what exhaust is on that? Or what modification is that? Mine doesn't sound that way. But when we use the quality mic and put it near the tailpipe, it changes the feel of the experience of driving the car. You can vision it better, I think.
Man, what did you guys have? I watch a few of those videos you guys do. I used to watch them all. That's become more difficult these days.
Yeah.
But you had like maybe a GT2 RS or something
Yes.
with like such
Yes.
a badass exhaust, and you can't capture that any other way than hearing it. And
Correct.
that was one that stuck out to me. That was like, damn,
Yeah.
that thing is serious.
It makes all the difference. And, you can feel the speed. And, a lot of times when you're watching a little screen and it's a drive video, it's really hard to get the feel of what's going on. It's always like when I go back and look at in-car race car stuff, I'm like, God, I feel like I was really hauling ass there. But if there's no volume, you can't really get the feel. It feels almost slow. It's kind of crazy.
And any guy who has driven around a racetrack and filmed it knows that your in-car video never looks as fast or exciting as it actually feels behind the wheel, right?
Never. Exactly.
Well, Matt, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And yeah, this is the first guest we've had, so maybe we'll have you back for, I don't know, podcast 100 if we get there.
Love to. Thank you very much, Howard. Thank you, your whole team. We love being part of Bring a Trailer and putting up cool stuff and watching the 2-minute clock count down.
You bet. We'll keep up the good work, and we'll look out for more awesome cars from you in the future.
Thanks, Howard. Take care.
All right.
So yeah, thanks Howard for that interview series. I think that was hopefully interesting for everybody. It's really great to get sellers and buyers here, but there's all sorts of categories of people. We're excited for who we may be able to reach out to in the future. And if you have suggestions for who you'd love to hear from, interviewing people, and honestly just engaging with the community. It's kind of a different thing for a marketplace, right? We want to be able to make that transparent, and that is something that on BAT, obviously the open commenting steers towards that, but actually talking to them here, it was one of the big reasons why we want to have a podcast at all, because you can actually hear, oh wow, these usernames are actually real people.
Totally. So that was great. As Randy said, we got a great list of guests coming up in the future. Next week, we are going to have the curator for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. As some of you may know, we entered into a cool partnership with them. They are deaccessioning a big block of vehicles that the museum has owned, many for 60 plus years, that Tony Holman bought, most of which back in the early 60s. So we've listed, I think, about 40 cars for the IMS Museum, and we've got many more to go. So we'll have Jason Van Sickle, who's a really awesome guy, young guy, super knowledgeable, that'll join us, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing with him.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Again, if you have any questions or suggestions, jump on over to the BAT podcast page and send us an email at podcast@bringatrailer.com. And watch out for the next episodes coming up, and subscribe to them on all your favorite channels so that you can hear more of what's going on. Thanks for joining.